Hello, hello, beautiful listener of the podcast, Money in the Hands of Conscious Women. I am with you today because I am going to bring somebody who is the epitome of money in the hands of conscious women. And my earring keeps on falling. So if you're seeing this as a video, you will see how I'm losing my earring. But what I really want to share with you is this magical woman that we have here. We have a modern version of a high priestess, which is so interesting because I have a tattoo called High Priestess. And when I read that in your bio, I was like, oh, there she comes, another sister. Kristen, please introduce yourself to our listeners.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. So my name is Kristen Stuart, and I work as a multidimensional mentor, supporting women in remembrance of their sacred gifts, activation of their highest timeline, and walking women into the frequency of embodied, pure power, wealth, love, and the remembrance of the sacred within. And so, this time feels so incredibly potent and powerful as we are literally, like, I feel like we're on the leading edge of, a new frontier, a new paradigm, which has conscious wealth in the hands of more women and a new pathway of sacred leadership taking form. And so it's so, I've been speaking to this quite a lot lately. It was like, isn't it an honor to be alive at this time and to be a part of this?
Exactly. Me too. That's not a coincidence. I've been saying this the whole time. What time to be alive? And I love history and I read a lot of history. And I think it's interesting to see how we are evolving. And sometimes I sit and I think exactly just like you, what a time to be alive, and what a pleasure to also have light beings just like yourself who come here to support us in this shift. I'm curious, what's your background? How did you arrive home?
Sure, thank you. So yeah, I mean, it's been a twisty, windy path ultimately, to come into this space as, primarily leading as a spiritual mentor and advisor, supporting others. Yet, my background has been a variety of different careers, I would say, beginning with working as a personal trainer and international hiking guide, into a yoga meditation teacher, into wellness coaching, into, it's like the paths kept revealing itself and following the prompts, and coming into this space now where I'm supporting women on their path of spiritual embodiment, activation of the divine feminine power within, working in the Akashic records to support the, the higher dimensional aspects that are streaming, that play a pivotal and have been pivotal on my own journey in opening the multidimensional channels. So I would say what was a big turning point for me was 11 years ago, 2011, 2012 timeframe. I went to the Sacred Valley of Peru for my first journey there with my mentor at the time on a yoga retreat. It was a powerful awakening for me, spiritual awakening, Kundalini awakening.
Wow.
So it's like all of a sudden, all of this information started pouring forth.
Mm.
And I was thinking, where is this coming from? What is happening?
Yeah.
And how am I living in this pure bliss. It was like living in this continual dance with oneness, and
Mhm.
the dance being just ecstasy,
Mhm.
bliss, where it was as though my eyes and my whole being were opening to a whole new level of reality and realization of, this is how it can be. This is how we get to live now, so long as we are choosing this and healing and moving through whatever is in the way
Mm.
in our human. It's like accessing the real richness of this spiritual reality as we are living as fractals of the divine light.
Mm.
What started to pour forth, there's a lot of layers always. However, it was like coming into this remembrance of the high priestess, and I began walking the path of the Nustia, the Andean priestess,
Mhm.
and then all of these frequencies of remembrance started pouring forth, and my path of walking with the divine feminine and really stepping into deep studentship with her, and ultimately a path of initiation with her and the goddess, began after that journey to the Sacred Valley of Peru, and was precipitated by it was a dark night it was this peaking of light, and then my human needed to catch up, and I wound up going through a very deep, powerful dark night of the soul journey,
Wow.
ultimately to bring me home to the remembrance of the divine, the remembrance that the only truth really is union and love. And we're here to remember this in all ways, on all levels. And I began, working in the Akashic records purely for myself, deepening into studentship studies of the goddesses, and
Mhm.
this started primarily in the Hindu pantheon, and going through ceremony and initiations with the Divine Mother, and she began channeling through into me, just these messages of love, and ultimately for me to remember, and then to walk in this path of remembrance in an embodied way. And I remember a whisper from her saying, "It's time to walk my daughters home."
Wow. Oh, I got goosebumps. Like my whole left side is like covered with goosebumps and my neck. What a beautiful story, and so many things that I want to pin to top and speak about. We're here to speak about the frequency of wealth, but before we get there, there are so many things that I want to talk about. And the first thing is your Kundalini awakening.
Mm,
And I think you are the first person that I have on the podcast. I get to speak to my clients, and some of them go through, I've been twice. And the
mhm.
first time was very blissful. Yes, exactly. The first time was blissful, and the second time was horrible experience. I felt like I'm dying for sure. And I wasn't like I wasn't expecting that. And it just came out of the blue. Literally, I was in bed. I was having COVID, so maybe COVID opened up that for me.
Interesting.
But the
Mhm.
first was very beautiful. The second was nasty. And I have a few clients who have been through a very dark Kundalini awakening. Let's speak a little bit more about that. I want to bring this conversation, if you feel comfortable to share, of course, this
Sure, of
experience, because I
course.
know this is a very private experience. For those who don't know what a Kundalini experience is, and for those who probably are going through something like that, they've went through it and they're wondering, did that really happen? Is that a Kundalini experience? Because not everybody who has a mental breakdown has a Kundalini awakening, and so on and so on. But let's get into this. And I know that it's different for different people. They can have a different experience as well. But what was your experience when you went through that? And then I want to speak about the dark night of the soul, because they're so connected, these two.
So, yeah. So, it was like my body was flooded with, this was on 11/11/11. So
Wow.
that's, I went to the Sacred Valley on
Mm.
retreat specifically for that portal at
Mm.
the time. And it was I remember feeling, one, the land of Peru, the Sacred Valley, vibrates so high. It's got such a very high frequency of vibration. There are many, prophecies that were coming to fruition at the time. And, there's different languages we could speak in. So I don't want to get off topic. I want to, speak to the fact that it was like being flooded with pure divinity, being flooded with pure divine light, and the sense of ecstasy within me of, I felt like I was seeing through new eyes, and I was sensing the world on a whole new frequency, and it was one that was so elevated and so expanded, seeing everything as just pure bliss and exquisite beauty, and feeling this as though my body was now tapped into a new level of receiving and feeling the world around me. I remember writing in my journal, even, it was like, even the taxi driver, like, it was the most beautiful journey in the taxi. And it was so funny, everything was so heightened.
Yeah.
And I knew that I was now going to see life through a new lens and experience life through a new lens. And then,
yeah, I know.
right? So
I know.
the rush of energy through, we could say, through the chakras, like everything was just spinning alive and awake. And there's this bliss and this vitality and this energy of, I feel superhuman. I remember saying that at the time, I feel superhuman. And I was so excited to come back to Canada. I'm based in the Canadian Rockies in Western Canada, just outside of Canmore, in the Banff, Alberta area, west of Calgary. And I remember coming back, and I was so excited because I was about to launch a brick and mortar business, Sacred Roots Yoga Studio, that was really influenced by this, this time in Peru. And I remember landing in the Calgary airport. And so this is back in 2011. I got back at the end of November. And it was like feeling like the drop in frequency. It was like thudding and going, wow, we've got a lot of work to do here to expand the frequency of love, expand this, to elevate the field, to hold more light, more love. And then I was going into, planning to open this yoga studio for January of 2012, and was in the exhilaration, the rush, the energy of the awakening, unaware, not fully aware of what was going on, feeling the bigness of it, the energy of it, and running with that, which eventually was going to lead to a crash, which it did. And my nervous system did not yet have the capacity to hold this amount of energy.
Oh, I don't know why I got so emotional.
And so I had not trained, that this was not ready. And I feel this is an important point to make.
Yeah.
Because so I'd been, practicing yoga, had a inconsistent meditation practice at that time, soon to have a very devoted and dedicated meditation practice, is what I'm going to say. Right. But what happened is, launch Sacred Roots Yoga Studio. I was running on adrenaline and this energy. I had been used to a very adrenaline fueled lifestyle as a climber, and very mountain lifestyle, climbing, ice, rock, alpine. So there is that side of
badass. Yes.
Yeah, that was like the warrior-ess in me, very badass, very alive, slinging ice tools into frozen waterfalls.
I can see you do that.
Yeah,
I can totally see you do that.
And I wasn't seeing the signs that the way I was operating was unsustainable.
Right.
And beneath that was a lot of fear, launching this dream business,
Mm-hmm.
financial fear,
Mm-hmm.
not having a proper plan in place. And I was just
Mm-hmm.
running on adrenaline, launched this beautiful, incredible dream studio, was on the run until my body started to say, you've got to slow down. This is not sustainable. By May of 2012, I was not sleeping. I was in I was starting, like, I was in a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, I've just got to push through this. I've got to keep going, in that hustle mode. I'm
Mm-hmm.
strong. I can do this. Stop sleeping. The impact on my mental health declined further, on top of a lot of this
Mm-hmm.
operating on adrenaline and anxiety. And then by the end of July, the studio was closed. I was in full adrenal burnout, and I
Right.
wound up catapulting into the dark night of the soul because the dream studio business had failed, which I
Mm-hmm.
would say had been my greatest fear. I physically was incapacitated. I was mentally incapacitated. I was
Wow.
still fighting all of it. And the dialogue inside of my brain was not so kind to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a rapid descent. And I wound up, I wound up in states of psychosis and to the peak edge of suicidal ideation.
Mm-hmm.
So it was from the highest high to the darkest and deepest low.
Mm-hmm.
All of it to bring me into the, the understanding of, the power that we hold to create and to also destroy, to the power to come back and
Mm-hmm.
to rise with huge lessons, huge
Mm-hmm.
awareness, to learn the prescription to self-love
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to deliver that. And my coaching business fell in my lap on the other side, where women started to come to me. They saw the burnout, the crash, the physical side of it, the mental side of it, and then the return. And women started to come to me to help them heal we could say
Mm-hmm.
heal the hustle,
Mm-hmm.
um, learn a more embodied feminine way of operating, opening to spirit, opening to another way of living. There's
Mm.
so many points within this.
Yes.
However, ultimately it was coming home to, embodied self-love, recognizing that I was always seeking and pursuing. There was also trauma in the background that was being ignored, that I was running from.
Mm-hmm.
Slinging myself around in that badass way in the mountains was both, building strength and also trying to heal
Yes.
on many levels. And then I felt like, the sacred channels just started opening more and more, walking on this path of the divine feminine embodiment.
Mm-hmm.
And many will say that, this return of the divine feminine to the planet really accelerated starting in 2012, as
I
we were
think,
coming
yeah,
to union ultimately, right?
definitely. Yes. That's so
Yeah.
true.
And
What a
so
story.
many lessons and layers within all of
So
it.
many.
I'm so grateful for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Looking back, I'm like, wow, I
What a
am.
full spin. You just made a complete circle. Like I got goosebumps again when I saw it because we as humans don't see the beauty of a complete circle. And the soul is like, yes,
Yes.
complete. Let's go into the next circle now.
Yeah.
I never knew that about you, and I'm very happy that you shared the story. I honestly saw it in front of my eyes like a Netflix series, to be honest with you. Like I lived through your experience and I could feel it. Let's speak about the divine feminine.
Mm.
Who is she? And I know that probably a lot of women who are not in this, they don't know. They're like, what is the difference between the feminine and the divine feminine?
Mhm.
And we want to put a big note here that brace yourself, because you are in for a treat. Because when you find the divine feminine, it's, as you said, it's like you become a superhuman. There's something about it, like it just opens up everything for you. So let's speak about the divine feminine.
Yeah. When you say the divine feminine, I instantly, I feel it, it's like the ultimate portal to the deepest relationship with love. That's immediately what comes to me. And thinking about the divine feminine frequency is it's like holds the frequency of the divinity you are, the divinity we are in the feminine, and the the liberation of pure love, as we literally are these living expressions of pure light.
Mm-hmm.
We came in as light, our soul, as a soul. We've gone through a very wild journey through, what I would say is the descent of consciousness, to now awaken and remember the truth of who we are on a soul level, the pure divine grace that is, I feel like, our ultimate power in the way that we live and we operate. And there are just different expressions of the divine feminine through, the priestesses, and there's many different priestess lineages. There's
Mm-hmm.
the different goddess archetypes. All are representations of this divine feminine power that
Mm-hmm.
we are remembering. And the divinity is so key, because I think what it does is it brings us into a union with, union with our higher self. We already are our higher self, and we're remembering her. But it's
Yes.
like opening to, there is so much more going on here. There is the presence of like of God, the goddess, everywhere, when we
Mm-hmm.
can see this and remember this within ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like being wrapped in the arms of the divine mother,
Mm-hmm.
to remember our way home. And so this divine feminine energy is like opening to the higher truths that are what we don't see with our eyes. It's what we are sensing, this exquisite
Mm-hmm.
beauty, the pure radiance that is the truth of who we are on a soul level. The divine feminine she is that of pure light, pure love,
Mm-hmm.
pure heart, pure in all ways. There's nothing other than love and light that emanates. And this isn't, I think sometimes these words can be misused or overused, yet when we really tune in
Mm-hmm.
to the purity within the heart,
Mm-hmm.
the pure love that is available to us, and it's like, what would the divine mother want you to know, to feel? And right there is like peace, harmony. There is only this when we can start to live through this lens.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it's like we expand into a more multidimensional existence, and recognize that our reality is so much more than what we are seeing and sensing with our five senses.
Yes, absolutely. Beautiful. And again, so many levels. I feel like I'm, when you speak, I'm getting into a loop. That's how I feel, like in a spiral, but in a beautiful, like a Taurus type of a, like going like this when you speak. It's so interesting. And I really wish that our audience heard this part. What is our divine mother wanting for us to know and experience? Because when you said that, oh my God, like my mind just went like, because she will want you to feel good and be happy, which brought me to something you said in the beginning of the conversation, which is something between the lines of life is about happiness and joy and ecstasy and feeling good. And this is something that I'm so conscious about the last few years. And we do understand you will have the dark night of the soul, and you will have contrast, and you will have pain. But what if you make life about love and joy and happiness and seek it and see things happening and say, okay, that's fine, but what about this? And that's something I teach my clients as well all the time. When contrast happens and pain happens and all of the other spectrum of um, these emotions, to say, but what about this? But what about this? I know this is there and we are with it, but what about this? What about joy? What about happiness? What about the fact that you feel good and you're safe? What about this? So I 100% agree with what you said. There's so many beautiful things that you said. I just want to speak with you hours and hours and hours, but I want us to circle back. And you see, we're going to make a beautiful circle here as well, and go to the conversation around the divine frequency of wealth. And I think that our foreplay was very beautiful around the concepts that we play around, because some people don't understand divine frequency and wealth and money in the hands of conscious women. Why conscious? Well, that's why that's why this conversation is why conscious wealth. What is the frequency of divine wealth?
Mm. You know, the way that I present it, and it's so fascinating. I have a program called Divine Wealth. That's
Mm-hmm.
literally how I've presented it. And it's,
Love it.
to me, it's remember that we are this vessel, we are this human vessel
Mm-hmm.
of pure light, divinity,
Mm-hmm.
fractals of the divine. We are here to live in overflow. We are here to know what it means to live in overflow, in incredible prosperity and abundance.
Mm-hmm.
And this, this is beautiful. And in, speaking to what we were just sort of coming to, where we're here to remember our divinity. We were born this way, divine,
Ooh,
worthy.
again, goosebumps. Like, you're giving me goosebumps this whole conversation, because you speak the truth. And we
Mm.
know it. When you know the truth, your body reacts. That's why I'm sorry to break your word, but I just had to, like, just, if people see, because I was going the whole time like glitching. That
Yes.
those were the goosebumps. And you know when something is true about you is when your body reacts to it and you get this.
I call them the
It's
tingles of truth. The tingles of truth. Our intuition is affirming, yes, this language, speaks to my soul. It's codes, right? We
it's
speak
100%.
it's transmission. This is the way that I do my work, is it's transmission, activation, and then there's also the energy healing side of it. And divine wealth, is, can we look at money through a new lens? Can we look at it as an expression of, we are here on this earth, yes, to live the most incredible life. We are here to create a life of bliss and joy and play and light.
Mhm.
This is why ascension. We're here to walk ourselves into the most exquisite life we can possibly dream up, because that's how powerful we are as creators. So we get to hold large amounts of wealth. We get to create it. If, for women, we're breaking, we're literally forging new pathways. And if, it's like we get to be the ones potentially to be the first in our lineage to create and hold and circulate large amounts of wealth as women, as leaders, as conscious leaders, circulating more wealth, created from the most pristine energetics, and, literally circulating more of this on the planet to support more causes that speak to our hearts, to encourage other women to rise up and claim their divine wealth as their birthright. They're worthy of this. And there's a lot that gets worked through, right? And so, where we felt unworthy, or perhaps fearing this power ultimately that we have to create, to lead in this way, because it's not been demonstrated before. So not only are we creating a new paradigm, well, an old one is dismantling around, heart-led, soul-led, sacred leadership, wealth viewed through a new lens, and all of the old stories around, perhaps money being unpure in some ways, because there's been examples of, incredible wealth created, but done in ways that were not conscious. And so, like, we look at all of the different ways this gets to be cleaned up, and this is what we're doing. And there's one point that keeps dropping in that, it adds to what I'm saying, but it goes back to, when we navigate or go through the dark nights of the soul journeys, all of it is up leveling us to our next timeline, up leveling us into a higher frequency. And what it's doing is clearing any of the debris, the density, the shadow, the doubt, the fear, the resistance out of us, to make room for more light to pour in. And then we're activated into ever higher frequencies, and learning how to hold this light steadier and higher for ourselves, for one another, for the collective, as we clean up and purify our lens on wealth, leadership, power, women reclaiming power in all of these different ways. We're bringing more of this to the collective, and this is ultimately the way that we get to lead. Like, the mission here is that the cleanup we do inside, the reclamation we bring forth in, with money, with leadership, to express in a way where there's no longer a holding back, a playing small, a doubting. It's like, I love having these conversations of, divinity, wealth literally in the same sentence, because what we're seeing is we're bringing in the unity consciousness.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We get to be here in this divine feminine and sacred masculine, as within, so without, in our fire and our divinity, right? In our action and our receiving. And so what we do is we find that balance to open up those receiving channels and be the vessel, be the portal through which the divine gets to pour more light, more wealth, more love. I'm like, more joygasms, wealthgasms, and orgasms into our lives, because then we're living fully alive in vitality, and you can feel the energy just like expand. And how incredible is it to be in this frequency where it's like, oh my gosh, this feels so good. This feels so, like, so
real.
safe.
Yeah.
And
it feels real and us and true.
It's the truth.
It's the truth. Ooh, another asm on my neck that I felt totally. And you know what I wanted to add with this? I had a realization a couple of days ago. I've been also on this topic of conscious wealth, and it means a lot to me on many, many levels. And when people ask me, what is your purpose? It's been for a very long time of how to create abundance, financial abundance for everybody, not just for women, but for men. And I've always felt it's normal. That's how it's supposed to be. Yes. A lot of money, it's supposed to be like that. And I don't come from a super rich family, but I always felt like that. And I think about this a lot. And sometimes I get sad because I think, would I be able to see this in my generation? And would I be able to see this in the following 20, 30, 50 years? They just say that I live until I'm 80, so the following 50 years. Am I going to see this revolution? Like, for example, so many people were fighting for freedom. My country of origin, Bulgaria, we were under the slavery of Turkish for 500 years. And my great, 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 great grandparents were freedom fighters. And unfortunately, they didn't see the freedom. But I get to honor that. I get to think, you didn't see it, but I see it now. So see through my eyes. And so sometimes I get sad, to be honest with you. And I work with so many women, and there's a lot of work. You know how it is when it comes to wealth specifically. There's something there. When it comes to relationships, health, we are moving faster. We can see faster results. But when it comes to wealth, sometimes it's so stagnant, and we want to help women. We want to support women. And sometimes the process takes a little bit longer than we all wish it takes. And so I get sad. And I was very sad a couple of days ago with regards to that. And I watched a documentary on SpaceX.
Mm.
And I was just mind blown. I was like, look at these people. And for me and you, we know we can get to Mars without spaceships.
Yes.
Girl, we know it. But I was watching this and I thought about, in 20 years time or 30 or 50 years time, I'm watching this now and I see all the problems and the worry, and it doesn't happen, and things blow up, and we witness this, and people like Elon Musk and other kind of people are just like worrying. They're like, oh my gosh, it's gonna happen, what's gonna happen? And everybody's like in this together. But in 50 years, that could be the most normal thing ever. And so I was
Absolutely.
watching this documentary and how they actually got the astronauts in 2020. And I felt this, I had this vision. And I was like, oh my gosh, one day, this conversation that we have and this massive revolution that we're working in the seen and the unseen, and sometimes in the unseen, we're working so much, but it's going to happen. And one day, worldwide, not just in Canada and the States and Western Europe, but in countries like India, Pakistan, Syria, Afghanistan, uh, all these countries where my heart is really like, I'm thinking sometimes we're doing all the work in the West, but the East needs us even more.
Yes.
And I just had this feeling of when I saw the SpaceX documentary, and when they went there and they were so happy, and all the feeling, and I lived it. And I was like, wow, one day we're going to watch this movie of how they were trying to get to Mars. And it sounded so bizarre for some people. Again, for us, it's like, I'm going to go there in my sleep, just watch.
Astral travel done.
Exactly. But one day we're going to watch this and we're going to be like, oh my gosh, I remember when they were really struggling, and now it's like buses or like a flight that you catch to go to Paris is like, let's go. And I thought,
Right.
one day wealth consciousness is going
Yes.
to be where me and you want it to be, and we carry so deeply. I know that you care for this a lot. This is our soul mission. And I had this realization, and I was like, this is exactly, because it feels so big, like this mission to Mars feels so big for some humans. And for us, sometimes we're like, how can we make this global, here and now, tangible? We know it's there, but we want it for all the sisters around the planet.
Yes.
And so I can't wait for us to witness and call each other and be like, you see what's happening?
Right.
You see the shift?
I'll be
Kristen, is there,
98. I'll be 98 in 50 years.
I love this. And isn't it going to be amazing? You're going to be these old grandmas, still very attractive, sexy, and beautiful. We're going to miss a couple of teeth for sure, but we are going to be like, oh my gosh, look at this. And I can't wait to see this, to be honest with you. I can't wait
Yes.
for us to witness, because it matters. It matters
Yeah.
so much. That
The
matters a
ripple
lot.
of, and it's the ripple effect as you're speaking. And that's why it's so important to have these conversations. And it's so important that we are bringing forth opportunities and invitations for others to step in and expand and create a new, like we're creating a whole new energy and lens around wealth consciousness. And, because as we talk about it in a new way, and as we start to clear out any of the old programming, the old stories around wealth, what we learned about money, all of that, as we clear it out and we focus on the vision, the highest vision that we have for this, large amounts of wealth to be held in the hands of more women globally. And I loved that you spoke to that we're not just talking about the West, we're on a global scale. This gets to expand and recognize how quickly things move, because we are interfacing with a quantum field that is waiting for us to assign energy, meaning like information. So we're focused on conscious wealth. We're expanding this. We're embodying this, inviting others to step in and do the same and to lead and to show what's possible. And this ripples, and that ripple can move at the speed of light, because that's actually the truth. And as you were speaking, I had an example come up this morning. I was on my way to the gym and I realized I'd forgotten my phone, which had my music in it. And I thought, oh, and then it prompted me into, I was like, bummer, but all good. But it prompted me into thinking it wasn't that long ago, because I was thinking about Apple, like everything is in this phone, right? And it wasn't so long ago when I had a flip phone and my music came from an iPod. And before that, it was a Discman. And before that, it was a Walkman cassette player. I was born in 1975. So it's like, it's not that long ago. Look at how quickly we are advancing in, I'm going to say, technology and consciousness, bridging, bringing spirit and science together, bringing, and this is where we can say bringing the sacred and the human together and amplifying our highest possible frequency. And this is what we are remembering. The wealth frequency gets to exist in a whole new way. And we are the ones creating it, holding the vision of it, emanating it from ourselves as we step into deeper and deeper embodiment of this. And this is a whole new, pathway of conscious leadership being born, where as entrepreneurs, as leaders, we are choosing to operate on a whole new level. And it's one that it comes from the heart, this divine spirit source. Yes, this is key. And I think this is something else that we're witnessing on the planet right now, conscious wealth, and also the healers and the mystics. And we can have these conversations that used to be held in, quiet behind the scenes circles or the closets, so to speak. And it's now bringing the spiritual out and recognizing spirituality and wealth get to exist together. They're in coexistence, and they support each other. And so I think bringing forth the remembrance that we are here to live alive, in freedom, sovereign, on all levels, right? So we're free in time, space, wealth, love, no longer bound, limited. It's like we are here to live as limitless. This is the truth of the reality that we are existing in. And now we're removing any of the veils, piercing the veils, old beliefs, recoding to come into new codes of truth. And this is what we're bringing forth, and this is what we carry. It's like we carry these codes within us, these divine codes. I have to say to my clients, you were divinely encoded as a soul, with pure light. And now it's time to liberate these codes, to bring forth freedom and peace and harmony and abundance and prosperity and overflow and joy and radiance, more upon more upon more of this. As energy is continually taking form, taking new form. And so as we become the living embodiment of divine wealth, as we become in the remembrance of the divinity we are, the limitless we are in all ways, and the more we choose to walk in this way in our lives and live through this lens from a place of such just like the deepest love for the light we're here to bring forth to the collective, we activate and ignite and light up and express these codes of truth.
If we can only hold this.
And this is the journey. This is the mission, is to hold this and to keep, and then we've got one another, right? And this isn't a solo. Everyone steps forth in their leadership, but we do it together.
Oh,
and 100%. This is where we're interlinking arms. And I remember a vision coming to me a few years ago, and I kept seeing it, and I was sharing it inside a mastermind I hold, a spiritual mastermind. It's like, I see all of the women interlinking arms again and being these vessels of pure light activation. I see the priestesses. I see this golden age that we are here to actualize through our full self-actualization, knowing that we are planting the seeds and laying the groundwork for the future generations. And so, what will I see in the next 50, say I've got 100 years, 52 years of my existence on this planet? I'm open to all of it, and know that everything I'm doing moment to moment, everything I'm speaking, seeing, and believing and recoding where necessary is planting more light into this planet. And when I look back 50 years from now and see the legacy of light that I've left, I know I will have fulfilled my mission. And it's ready for the next generations to continue. And that feels so good in my body. It's like, that's what, has me getting back on track when I get forgetful, because we do and are human. We forget. And ultimately, this is all remembrance of the truth of who we are in our power, our light, our limitless capacity as creators, that we get to create the heaven on earth, right? This is home, heaven on Mother Earth. And we are here as the conduits, bringing it in, as these, holding these sacred gifts and being the portal the divine pours into, and we share this in all ways. This is where we see the ripple, the infinity symbol.
Yes.
It's like, it's infinite. So let's transmute this energy over here that holds density and holds the old world, the old codes and old paradigm that was not in balance, was not in harmony and unity. We drop that as we say yes to a new way, and remember that we have the power to create whatever it is that we desire. That's how powerful we are. And ultimately, for myself, when I recognize this, and it's a conversation I have with a lot of clients, who's like, ultimately, we're afraid of how much power we hold, right? And what if we become wildly successful at all of this? Can I hold it? Yes. We keep leaning in, and we lean in with one another. Lean into the discomfort. Remember, and just be with the ones who are activating. Step inside the spaces and the conversations like this that bring us into that aliveness and the truth of the limitless power we are as divine vessels in our human, as portals of pure divinity, pure love.
Beautiful. I want to leave the listener just to absorb all of this and absorb it and listen and again and again and again, because I do believe that just by listening, it's already activating something big, and it's already, as they integrate it inside of them and their system, they emit it around and they change their surrounding just through being. Thank you so much for this powerful, soulful, on multiple dimensions conversation, a lot of truth. You speak my language so
Mm.
much that when you speak to me, I feel love, and I hope everybody felt that. This is really the embodiment of truth, and the truth feels like love, and it feels, yes, this is it. This is my truth. This is what I believe in. And I'm sure that people who were fully immersing themselves in this conversation would want to connect with you, Kristen. I
Yeah.
will drop all the beautiful spaces that they can come into your world and experience more of that. You're a beautiful leader, and I invite people to definitely be in your space and sign up for this mission actively. So thank you so much. Is there anything that you want to add before we wrap up?
Oh, thank you so much. Such an honor to be in this space with you, and the space that you are holding for so many with this podcast, and your vision, your intentions, and that really, it's the more of this that we get to engage in together, the more powerful this light radiates, and it's like we pick up speed together, right? We pick up speed together, and it's like boom, this conversation has activated so much joy and light and passion in my heart and soul, and I feel like walking out into the world as this emanation of pure light, and people's want to like more of this, please, right? And
Yes.
so for all of the listeners, thank you so much for you know tuning into this conversation, and to be sharing all that is being offered here, and may it be of incredible support for you on your journey. And remember, you are the one who gets to lead, who gets to create more wealth, more impact, more love on the planet. This is what we're here for, and as we all step in and decide we're going for it, it's like, watch out world, because everything is shifting, and it's shifting very quickly. We're
Yes.
literally, the frequencies that are pouring into the planet right now are supporting all of this. All of the support is here in your light, your divinity, your power, your grace, and your fire, and all of it gets to coexist. And so I'm excited for what is to come from this conversation, and in such gratitude for this, what you have created here, and sharing with so many, and I love us being a
Yes.
bridge here across the ocean, really
Yes.
across the waters, and so grateful to you for the invitation. It's been an honor.
Thank you. It's been an honor indeed. Forever, forever grateful for this. This was beautiful creation. Thank you so much.